Good evening, everyone. It's great to see you all here, and I'm honored to speak in front of you for the next couple of minutes. I want to thank Steve and H.E. for doing a great job teaching Proverbs in the back class. I've been wanting to give an invitation on wisdom, and they've given me the perfect opportunity to do so. When I was a kid, I had the following phrase written on the wall above my bed, pulled from Proverbs 4:7. Wisdom is supreme, therefore get wisdom. It was written in my patently bad handwriting, but every night it would be the last thing I saw before I went to sleep. I don't think I'm unique in my early and sustained love for wisdom. In fact, I think it makes me just like everyone else in this country. Let me lay down some facts. In 2021, Americans listened to 15 billion hours of podcasts. And by 2024, estimates predict there will be 100 million unique listeners in the US alone. 75% of listeners reported they listen to learn new things. I think this was reflected with the number 2 podcast in the US, Huberman Labs, which boast episodes with titles such as Improve Vitality, Emotional and Physical Health, and Lifespan, and Leverage Dopamine to Overcome Procrastination and Optimize Effort. This is just a small slice of the $11 billion self-help industry, which includes books, social media posts, programs, YouTube channels, and speaker circuits, not to speak of journalists, pundits, philosophers, and professors. I can't help but think of the imagery in Proverbs 8 of Lady Wisdom climbing on her perch in the marketplace and calling out to us. Does not wisdom call, and understanding raise her voice? On top of the heights beside the way, where the paths meet, she takes her stand. Besides the gates, at the opening of the city, at the entrance of the doors, she cries out, To you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of men. These days, the opening of the city is crowded. Every ledge has someone calling out using the name of wisdom. If we're not careful, we could end up hearing something that sounds right to us rather than what is actually right. We could walk away thinking we got wisdom without hearing her cries at all. What to listen for then? I think Job poses the question best in the 20th chapter, starting in verse 1. But where can wisdom be found? And where is the place of understanding? Job asks around, but to no avail. It's not within the ocean depth or the sea. It's concealed from Abaddon and death. It's hidden from every living creature on the earth and in the sky. Only God knows. Picking up in verse 23, God understands its way and he knows its place. For he looks at the ends of the earth, he sees everything under the heavens. Where he imparted way to the wind and assessed the waters by measure, where he had made limit to the rain and a course for the thunderbolt, then he saw it and declared it. He established it and also searched it out. And to mankind he said, Behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to turn away from evil is understanding. Therefore, wisdom is 1, established by God, and 2, defined as the fear of the Lord. These are great tests for discerning the voices of the gate. For 1, if anyone claims they, or their scientific method, or their philosophy, or the political party is the source of wisdom, that is not the capital W wisdom that comes from God. For 2, for the fear of the Lord, I turn to Psalm 111, verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. All those who follow his commandments have good understanding. His praise endures forever. Put plainly, following God's commandments, given to us through the Bible, is wisdom. Any advice that is contrary to that is contrary to wisdom. But we should not be surprised if this conception of wisdom is not well received. As Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 18, For the word of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved is the power of God. One commentator states that the word Paul uses for foolishness carries a connotation better translated as vulgar joke. What we take for wisdom, the commandments of God and Jesus' sacrifice on the cross, is a vulgar joke to many. Not a pretty picture to be the laughingstock to those who the world considers wise. But, like Paul, we find assurance in God's wisdom. Quote, Where is the wise person? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has God not made foolish the wisdom of the world? We must remember that we are not to be drawn in by the debaters of this age, but those who the world considers wise. If there is still any doubt on what God's wisdom looks like, I turn to James for 2 final pieces of practical advice. First, in James 3:17 through 18, James tells us that we will know wisdom by its fruits. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peace-loving, gentle, reasonable, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial, free of hypocrisy. and the fruits of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. If what we are told does not bear these, then it cannot be right wisdom. James does not mince words here. Teachings that bear bitterness and selfish ambition are earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. Finally, James writes in the first chapter, starting in verse 5, "But if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it will be given to him." God wants us to rightly discern and encourage us to ask for his assistance in doing so. After all, we cannot find wisdom apart from him in the first place. The purpose of this isn't to condemn every podcast or request you block every public figure on social media. This is simply a petition to remember that the only wisdom worthy of calling wisdom is 1, recognized as from God, 2, predicated on the fear of God, and 3, bears the fruit of righteousness. We should remember to be cautious when we hear something that sounds pleasing to us, but goes against the cries of Lady Wisdom. If you are ready to answer her calls and fear the Lord by keeping his commandments and recognize that we are saved by the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross, which they called foolishness, we invite you to come to be baptized as we stand and sing.